My name is Barbara Rosen, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white older woman, white hair, green eyes, glasses to read, and rust-colored top with a string vest. I originate from the Seneca Nations in Upper New York. We want to acknowledge that here at this church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminoles people. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you during the coffee hour. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out, we'll be able to stay in touch with you. You can also just send us an email at membership@uutarpon.org to get connected. There are also small cards to write any joys or concerns that you would like to share with us if you prefer to do it in writing. Our minister, Reverend Kristina Spaude, is giving the service today titled Love Builds a Bridge. Our music is with Bonnie Whitehurst and the choir. Our first piece of music, Building Bridges, number 123 in the Teal hymnal.
1023. It would be 1023. And we'll sing it through once all together in unison. And then we'll break up into 3 parts. It's a round. So if you want to sing with the first row, they'll begin first. And then the second row will come in at the beginning again. And then I will come in the third time. I will come in third. So you may sing with me as well. So here's the tune. All together.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach bridges between our divisions. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our vision, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I am a white woman and use she, her pronouns. I am tall with shoulder-length curly brown hair, parted on one side with blue eyes. Our opening words this morning come from Arlen Goff. This is Thresholds. Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside and back again, from here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life, pregnant with possibilities. How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing, thirsty souls, come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice with these words from Tracy Johnson. We kindle our chalice flame this morning, awakening the fire of our ancestors in our hearts, beacon of freedom held out to light the way, light of reason illuminating the path, spark of courage igniting our spirits, aglow with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of times past, brighten this present moment that we may be the love that builds our center and our foundation both. Blessed be. The next piece of music, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the gray hymnal.
Our story today is Somebody Loves You, Mr. Hatch, written by Eileen Spinelli and illustrated by Paul Yalowitz. Mr. Hatch was tall and thin, and he did not smile. Every morning at 6:30 sharp, he would leave his brick house and walk 8 blocks to the shoelace factory where he worked. At lunchtime, he would sit alone in a corner, eat his cheese and mustard sandwich, and drink a cup of coffee. Sometimes he brought a prune for dessert. After work, he would make 2 stops, at the newsstand to get his paper, and at the grocery store to buy a fresh turkey wing for his supper. After supper, he read the paper, took a shower, and went to bed early. He keeps to himself, everybody said about him. One Saturday, when Mr. Hatch stepped onto the porch with his dustpan and broom, he got a surprise, a package wrapped in brown paper. He had never spoken to the postman before. "Thank you, Mr. Goober." Mr. Goober smiled. "You're welcome. I always enjoy delivering packages." Mr. Hatch tore the brown paper off. Inside was a heart-shaped box, all satiny red with a pink bow on top. It was filled with candy. Something fluttered to the porch floor. He picked up a little white card. It said, "Somebody loves you." Only then did he remember that this was Valentine's Day. Mr. Hatch wondered, who would send this to me? He was all alone. He had no friends, and yet someone had sent him a Valentine. Who? He put the box on the coffee table and tried to do some dusting, but every time he left the room, he had to keep peeking to see if the box was still there. Somebody loves you. At last, he flung the dust cloth away and exclaimed, "Why, I have a secret admirer." And he laughed. He laughed and clapped his hands, and he took a piece of candy from the box and ate it. Mr. Hatch changed his shirt and found some old aftershave in a bottom drawer. He splashed it on his face. He picked out a yellow tie with blue polka dots and put it on. And then he went for a walk. Maybe, he thought, I will meet the person who sent me the candy. Of course, no one had ever seen Mr. Hatch wearing a tie or smelling of aftershave or smiling, so he got lots of attention. Ms. Weed tripped over her dog. Mr. Dunwoody nearly fell off his ladder, and little Tina Finn spilled all the toys out of her wagon. Mr. Hatch waved hello to them all. On Monday, it was back to work. At lunchtime, Mr. Hatch sat in the middle of the cafeteria. He spoke to everyone and passed out chocolates from his heart box. On the way home, as usual, he stopped at the newsstand. Mr. Smith handed him the usual newspaper. "I think I'll have a pack of mints," said Mr. Hatch. Not as usual. Mr. Smith was shocked. "Was that you speaking, Mr. Hatch?" "Indeed it was. I said I would also like a pack of mints. And if you don't mind me saying so, Mr. Smith, you don't look very well today." Mr. Smith recovered from his shock to reply, "You're right, I have a cold. I was supposed to go to the doctor's this afternoon, but the stand has been so busy that I haven't had time." Mr. Hatch smiled. "Why, I'd be happy to watch the stand for you while you go." Mr. Smith could hardly believe his ears. "You would? Certainly, just show me what to do." And so Mr. Hatch ran the newsstand for an hour. He wondered if any of the people who stopped by to buy a paper or a magazine or a candy bar had sent him the mysterious Valentine. When Mr. Smith returned, Mr. Hatch made his usual stop at the grocery store. "I'm a little tired of turkey wings," he told Mr. Todd. "I think I'll have a fresh slice of ham." Mr. Todd weighed the meat and wrapped it. "You look worried," said Mr. Hatch. "I am," said Mr. Todd. "My little girl is late. She hasn't come home from school yet, and I can't leave the store to look for her until my wife arrives." "Goodness, why didn't you say so? I will go look for her." And so he walked to school and found little Melanie Todd by the swings and brought her home. thank you," said the grocer. "Any time," said Mr. Hatch. After supper, Mr. Hatch did not bother to read the paper. He decided to bake brownies instead. It would be nice to have brownies to share with the people at the shoelace factory. As he baked, the warm chocolate smell of brownies floated throughout the neighborhood. Children gathered around Mr. Hatch's house, sniffing the air. "Well, I suppose the factory can wait," said Mr. Hatch as he looked out the window, and he brought out 2 platefuls. "Now, what are brownies without lemonade?" He stirred up a nice pitcher. When the parents came out to gather their children, they had some brownies too. It turned out to be a nice picnic in Mr. Hatch's backyard. He dusted off his old harmonica and played songs that he remembered from his boyhood. Everyone danced. And so the days and weeks went by. When Mr. Hatch wasn't smiling, he was laughing. And when he wasn't laughing, he was helping someone. And when he wasn't helping someone, he was having a party in his yard or on his porch. He seemed to have forgotten all about finding the person who sent him the valentine. Then one afternoon, Mr. Goober, the postman, came to his door. His face was very serious. "Come in, Mr. Goober," said Mr. Hatch. "You look upset." "I am upset," he said. "I made a mistake some time ago. My supervisor is very angry with me. Do you—" "Yes, Mr. Goober, what is it?" "Do you recall the package I delivered to you on Valentine's Day, I think it was?" "Yes, I believe so," said Mr. Hatch, beginning to feel a little uneasy. I don't suppose you still have it," said Mr. Goober sadly. "As a matter of fact, I do," said Mr. Hatch. "I still have the box. The candy is gone, though. Why do you ask?" The postman took a deep breath. "I'm afraid I delivered it to the wrong address. It was supposed to go to another house." Mr. Hatch recalled tearing off the brown paper. It never occurred to him to look at the address. He fetched the heart-shaped box with a pink bow and gave it to the postman. "I do hope your supervisor won't be too angry with you now." The postman was heading down the sidewalk when Mr. Hatch called from the porch. "Mr. Goober, I forgot something," as he pulled the little white card from his pocket and gave it to the postman. Alone in his living room, Mr. Hatch sighed. Nobody loved me after all. Then he read the paper, took a shower, and went to bed early. The next morning at 6:30 sharp, Mr. Hatch left his brick house and walked 8 blocks to the shoelace factory. At lunchtime, he sat in the corner alone, ate his cheese and mustard sandwich, and drank a cup of coffee. After work, he stopped by the newsstand for his paper. He did not speak to Mr. Smith. And when he ordered his turkey wing from Mr. Todd, he did not smile. Nor did he pat little Melanie Todd on the head, or bake brownies, or have picnics, or parties, or play his old harmonica anymore. Everyone whispered, "What's wrong with Mr. Hatch?" Mr. Goober, the postman, told them. "We love Mr. Hatch," insisted Mr. and Mrs. Dunwoody. "He gave us flowers for our garden. He helped to mend our back fence." Ms. Weed nodded. "I love him too. He saved bones for my dog, Ruffy." Ruffy barked. She loved Mr. Hatch too. Mr. Smith told everyone about how Mr. Hatch had watched the newsstand so that he could go to the doctor. And Mr. Todd told everyone how Mr. Hatch had found his little girl. All the children in the neighborhood remembered Mr. Hatch's wonderful brownies and lemonade, and most of all, his laughter. "Poor Mr. Hatch, what can we do?" Then Mr. Goober announced, "I have an idea." On Saturday morning, Mr. Hatch woke to a bright and sunny day. He put on his old overalls and went out to the porch with his dustpan and broom. He couldn't believe his eyes. All over the porch were red and white hearts and pink bows. There were boxes of candy on the chairs and yellow streamers flowing from the ceiling. And sticking out of his mailbox was a shining silver harmonica. The front yard was filled with people, happy, smiling people. They were holding a huge sign with hand-painted letters. It said, "Everybody loves Mr. Hatch." Mr. Hatch dabbed a tear with his handkerchief. "I do believe," he sniffed, "somebody loves me after all." And then he smiled, and then he laughed, and then he hurried down to be with his friends. We will now sing the children to their programming with Jami. It's hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal. And as we sing, I am lighting this candle represent the love and light of this community to be carried and held by them during their time together.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May God's light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go
I wish I had a sword like that. I would have worn it today. Those of you in front don't know, but we up here could see that beautiful blue sword flashing around in the back of the church. So you missed it all, but it was fun. Now is the time in the service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. This month, the Social Justice Council is asking for donations for the Navigator Scouts. For those at the church, there are plain envelopes in the pews to use if you wish to donate cash or wish to write your name on the envelope if you'd like. For those at home, please go to our website, uutarpon.org, click on the donate button, select Social Justice, give the plate, Navigator Scouts. The offering will now be given and received. The next piece of music, Circle Round for Freedom, number 155 in the gray hymnal.
Notice, if you would like to sing with us, notice that the melody or the tune is in the middle line there. We'll sing it all the way through once using just the melody, and then if you feel adventurous, you can sing the top line or the bottom line along with it.
Each week we offer some thoughts, something to possibly reflect on during our moment of silence. And this week the words come from Margaret Wheatley. It's not our differences that divide us. It's our judgments about each other that do. Curiosity and good listening bring us back together. We will hold a brief moment of silence together to allow you to settle into yourselves and your seats. Take a few deep breaths deep into your belly if that is comfortable for you. Our reading today comes from Julian Jamaica Soto. This is Some Things Take a While Longer If They Are Important. If it were easy, you already would have finished. If it were simple, the work would never give you pause. Sometimes things of worth take a while. The Great Wall of China took 20 years, and part of the way, the Quinn connected existing walls. Dashrath Manji took 20 years to dig through a mountain by hand so that people could have access to medical care. And there is more, and you know it. How long does a seed take to sprout? You count it in days, but the universe may count it differently. The time it took to gather the atoms to make the seed, to teach it to unfurl and stretch toward the loving, generous sun. Some things take a while, and this is pretty much okay. We all need patience, time, and nurture to gather the things that make us ourselves, to take an incalculable risk and reach not only for the sun above the ground, but also for the roots beneath that reach to hold us steady through every moment from here on out.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle
Last month, I preached on love in a time of fascism, which I quickly discovered would need more than one service to address. So this is part 2. In that service, I spent time outlining Jason Stanley's 10 fascist political tactics. These cannot easily or fully be isolated from each other. That is, they feed into and off of each other. And when there are multiples of them in use together and they promote division or othering, they are being used for fascism. These tactics are spelled out in Stanley's book, How Fascism Works, The Politics of Us and Them. The 10 are a mythic past, propaganda, anti-intellectualism, unreality, hierarchy, victimhood, law and order, sexual anxiety, Sodom and Gomorrah, the urban versus rural, and Arbeit macht frei, work shall make you free, othering through standards and ideals about what work looks like, including tearing into labor unions that bring people together across class. I ended the sermon with questions like these. How can we be the loving people we believe ourselves to be while holding firm in our resistance to fascism and those who spread it? What does love ask us to do? Will we take the hard road like I talked about in the January 7th service? Will we choose the difficult path like the wise men did? I mentioned my resistance to delving into this topic. The resistance wasn't intellectual. This is a big part of my education. The resistance was spiritual and emotional, personal even. In its most simple terms, I didn't want to remember that these others who cause so much harm to people I love are not only human, but are also mine, ours. It is difficult to want to rehumanize those who so vehemently dehumanize us and those we love. It is easier when we other each other, to treat one another as less than, to be physically, emotionally, verbally abusive, to strip them of their dignity and worth in our minds. You're not a bad person if you do this. You're just human. We all do it at times. When I was doing my chaplaincy training, the social workers on the team who specialized in our patients with dementia used to repeat to everyone, staff, caregivers, everyone, that anger is an expression of an unmet need. It's scary when people are angry and violent, and being able to repeat those words helps those of us who are in caring roles remember that there's something beneath the behavior that needs tending. It's one thing to remember this when you're visiting someone who's agitated in a hospital, and it's another to remember this when you're confronted with, even just in the paper or on the news, images like young white men carrying tiki torches, someone driving into a peaceful protest, or the violent attack and insurrection on the Capitol in 2021. At times like that, we want to other, even if just initially for our own safety. Othering, however, can come with its own sense of superiority. The idea that because I am not like them, perhaps I am actually a law-abiding person and not a criminal, that makes me inherently a better person. We reduce one another to one-dimensional outlines based on one moment in time, possibly our worst, and importantly, when our emotions are beyond the 10-point scale, when the low-grade frustrations have been building up to that for weeks, months, even years without recognition or being addressed. I'm not saying that this isn't their fault and that it's ours. Fascism emerges in unhealthy systems where disconnect and division are ready to be exploited. Terrorist cells or any other extremism functions the same way. They are able to attract those who are feeling othered, vulnerable for whatever reason, and who are seeking connection. They then find that connection in a group that allows them not only to feel a sense of belonging, but also a sense of power. There's a podcast from NPR's Invisibilia that talked about a town in Denmark's idea of combating or possibly even preventing violent extremism and terrorism by attempting to make sure that potential recruits get the care and support that they need that would keep them from getting involved. For example, counseling for young people, especially young men and their families, connecting young people with mentors, people in the community who are like them, who have struggled with the same kinds of things that they do, and other such measures. That is, their basic strategy for trying to prevent extremism and terrorism was the radical idea that being in relationship, that being connected in meaningful ways with others would help people become socially integrated into their communities. It is much harder to radicalize people who have people in their lives, their neighborhoods, their schools, their workplaces, and so on, who care for them and who they care about. This strategy of reconnecting people with their community and communities is based on awareness of how certain trends are colliding and harming individuals. Social isolationism has been on the rise for generations, especially with the decline of third spaces like churches and other religious centers being a big one. The absence of public spaces where people meet and gather reinforces isolationism, as has the disappearance of big porches from homes, neighborhood gatherings, community centers, and other such spaces. Like others, like Americans in this moment, Danes probably thought that their greatest threats came from without. What they began to understand was that they came from within, that the isolated in their communities were being recruited into extremist groups that would return them to carry out violence in their own communities where they felt that they had been betrayed or left behind. Tribalism, the drive to find people like me or us, may not be so much on the rise as it is just more prominent now. When we don't have other circumstances that may force us to an extent to be in relationship with our neighbors and others, we gravitate toward those with similar interests and identities in a lot of cases. This can just reinforce our isolationism. Social media and other apps and sites like YouTube can also reinforce this by catering to our particular algorithms. Then we get to see more of what we like, creating a vacuum of what we're exposed to. And news cycles turn over at a wild rate anymore. We consume so much news and data that it's harder to stay focused on what's important. And we are completely overwhelmed, which keeps us immobilized mentally and emotionally, which, by the way, is a strategy in and of itself. There are so many problems in the world, and so many of them are so big that one person can't do much, and we get stuck in this loop of too big, too much, too big, too much. Throw in a heaping dose of polite conversation that does not include sex, politics, or religion. And finally, add the tactics of fascist politics on top of the existing wildly frayed social fabric and all these other elements, and how we got to where we are becomes a bit clearer. All of these reinforce an idea of us versus them, however we choose to define the us and the them at any given moment. And this is where othering takes deeper root, and we distance ourselves with our words and actions. The only way to counteract this is to recreate a healthy and strong social fabric that allows, at first, casual but necessary interaction. Humans are wired for connection. We need to be able to reconnect with one another's basic humanity. The ideologies of exclusion and othering must be undone. This can be really hard to do. I struggle with wanting to know about people who I already know are have different political values and ideas than I do, especially those whose beliefs harm myself and the people that I love. And this is quite possibly the most critical work we can be doing now. It will be the work of a generation to help us get to a better place in this country, if it's even possible. It may well save us from the civil war looming. I've truly come to believe or re-believe that our healing will only come if we set aside the political challenges and address the deeper spiritual ones. We keep doing the things that we're doing, supporting democracy and those who share our values, advocating for change that helps all of us, showing up at public forums, but we also need to dig into this realm. Following the Reverend Cecilia Kingman's amazing Berry Street essay delivered at our 2023 General Assembly, My Little Pony Was Right, Fascism's Without and Within, there were two respondents. The first, which she described as a dispatch from behind enemy lines, was the Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens, who serves the UU Church of the Palouse in Moscow, Idaho. That congregation, in an even redder state than Florida, has been working hard in their community to try to make changes. Their simple guiding principle has been to do good and live our UU values out loud because, as she said, it's really hard to hate people you know. Their congregation has been thriving despite the repressive extremists in government and in the community. They have worked hard at becoming beacons of our faith, while also being beacons of a new way of being together. Their church is so well known, Stevens says, that everyone in their town knows who they are and what they stand for. They are committed to the high-stakes fights that they find themselves in, not the fake fights that our congregations can fall into. They're focused on the fights about democracy and abortion and education. Their conversations in church are about how to leverage their privilege in the community to advocate for and create change, and how they will be there for one another when the fascists come for them. When? Some are already participating in civil disobedience. Those who can keep trying to build bridges with members of a local extremist group because they are their neighbors. They take casseroles when medical and other needs arise and shovel driveways when it snows. This is not meant to be the work of those who are on the receiving end of harm or those targeted for othering by a group. It is a way to harness our privilege for those of us who have it in order to make change. Resistance also takes the shape of resting, celebrating, and living well, keeping local culture alive and thriving. Resistance may be celebrating a child dedication ceremony or telling stories about people who look and love and live differently than the one-dimensional cookie-cutter stories we're told are acceptable. There's a way, if we practice it, of living our values and honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We don't have to agree, and most likely will not, but we do not want to sacrifice anyone's humanity, as it is inextricably bound up with our own. Both Rabbis Sharon Blouse and Danya Ruttenberg, whose respective books, The Amen Effect and On Repentance and Repair, which I referenced in the fall, have shared the story of Derek Black, son of the founder of Stormfront, a white nationalist online community, and godson of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke. Black had been called the heir apparent of the white nationalist movement. He had his own radio show and youth Stormfront online community. He taught people in communities here in Florida how to win elections using white nationalist talking points without being explicitly white nationalist or racist, helping create the wave that Trump was eventually able to ride all the way to the White House. It was when he went to university at New College that he first started to experience people from other backgrounds. Black even made some diverse friends there, including a few Jews who eventually invited him to their Shabbat dinners. These Jews had learned about Black's identity as a white nationalist and chose to try to engage him and help him think differently. For them, this was not only activism, it was a way to participate in some of the hardest work fighting for civil rights. They knew they needed to be in it for the long game, and so they invited him back week after week. Black was quiet and curious and listened. They all got to know each other, and eventually those Jews who had initially been scared of what might happen began to return too. They talked and made about different areas of interest, from history to language and other topics, without broaching politics, racism, or nationalism. Eventually, Black was exposed to enough ideas that he had trouble continuing to make sense of this world he had been born into. Black isn't the only one who has had this experience. Other former white nationalists, Christian nationalists, and others have as well. Some of them have even started groups to support people who have been in these groups, but started to have doubts and questions. This doesn't immediately change things, and the world isn't suddenly full of Lisa Frank rainbows and unicorns. It takes a lot of work and time, and most importantly, being in relationship. And sometimes people don't change. But there hasn't been some kind of mass exodus of folks from these groups, but it can and does happen. And it begins with caring about people as individual human beings and treating them with the kindness and care that we hope for ourselves. As Adrienne Marie Brown says, small is all. It matters what we do and say. It makes a difference when we rehumanize those who have professed to hate us and people we love. It matters that they believe another world is not only possible, but also that they will be held in it if they do decide to cross the divide. When we build bridges, we make it possible to heal the world and make us all more whole. Our entire faith is built on the belief that all of us are held in an all-embracing love. May we go out into the world and live that love into life. If you would please rise in body or in spirit and lift your voice in song for our closing hymn in the Teal hymnal, number 1014, which is printed as Standing on the Side of Love, but the words have been changed to Answering the Call of Love, and I invite you to sing it that way. In The Gift of Faith, Jean Harrison Newyar has written, in the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey called hope, with love, with me.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, neighbor. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, neighbor. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, neighbor. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, neighbor. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, ancestors. Where you lie, I will lie.
We hope you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words from Robin F. Gray. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world.